I'm going to chalk this up that this is a weird weekend in baseball. Uh, but that the Yankees did some CPR on the Red Sox in general and made me and you potentially have some more interesting shows over the next few weeks.
Hello and welcome to the Pinstripe Post. My name is Ryan Sampson, but he's the star of the show, Joel Sherman. Today is Monday, June 16th. The New York Yankees were swept by the Boston Red Sox in Boston over the weekend. They also won the series against the Kansas City Royals. Since the last time we spoke to Joel, we'll talk about this pretty horrific weekend for the Yankees against the Red Sox. We're going to break that down. We'll discuss the Rafael Devers trade and the impact for the Yankees on that as well. And we'll discuss Giancarlo Stanton's return coming this week, supposedly as well. We'll get to that as well. But before we get to any of that, Joel, as always, happy belated Father's Day. How you
Thank you.
doing on this Monday morning, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I got some of the Yankees yesterday, but I got to be honest, I spent the day with my two boys on Father's Day, so I'm flying a little blind about especially yesterday's games with the Mets too, because I usually try to watch both teams play. But my favorite thing to do with my kids is I love to take long walks with them and go to brunch. And I took a long walk with them and went to brunch. And then we also did dinner. And me and my son have been binge watching The Wire together, which I'm up to about my fourth viewing of it and his first. So yeah, it was a good day. So I was good Father's Day.
It's a good choice. I like The Wire. That's a good one to watch, to binge watch as always. I'm more of a Sopranos guy, but I definitely like The Wire a lot too.
My other son binge watched every episode of The Sopranos last year, and I would dive in and out with him. So we got that one covered also. So
Nice. That's awesome. Well, listen, Joel, I'm glad that you got to enjoy your Sunday. I got to enjoy some Sunday as well with some golf, but the Yankees didn't make it enjoyable this weekend for a lot of their fans. Listen, one out of the last six they've won. The Red Sox seem to have their number, but overall, Joel, this weekend felt a lot like last year's Yankees. And hear me out here. It felt like a sloppy baseball team. And I don't know if they're just in this June swoon of, we're trying to get through the marathon of the season, but a lot of the moments that happened over the weekend with guys getting picked off, not getting the ball in time in the cutoff throw, the approach at the plate in certain situations, it just felt like the Yankees were not in tune this weekend all around. I wanted to know, getting your sense from looking at a bird's eye view, is this just the marathon slog of the season, or should we really be starting to pay attention, like we're seeing some cracks in the armor here in the shield that the Yankees have some deficiencies?
yeah, I think it's the right question, Ryan. And the answer, if I'm being truthful, I know in this day and age you're not supposed to say I don't know, but I don't know. It was an interesting weekend in baseball where there are like seven or eight or nine sweeps this weekend, including like the Mets got
Mm-hmm.
swept. And would we say, do we see the nick in the armor of their starting pitching this weekend, where some stuff started to go wrong? Uh, the Blue Jays, who were flying, they got swept. It was throughout baseball. So is it just, you almost feel like, is it that time of year where like a little exhaustion, turn to this, whatever? I'll say two things that I think are that jump out to me. The past two weekends, the Yankees allowed life to be breathed into the Red Sox. Now, it will be interesting what this trade of Devers means for that life moving forward. I think, again, just to, because I've spent so much time with the Mets too, the Mets, it's amazing. We're 3 weeks into June. You know, the Mets have not played a game against the Braves yet, but they play six or seven over the next 10 days. And I think with the Braves, the Mets have the same chance the Yankees had with the Red Sox.
Mm.
They can either kind of like deliver a knockout punch, this ain't your year, or they could help the Braves kind of like move towards at least the wild card, if not more, if the Braves play well against them. So I think that I think there's something there. So that stands out to me. And then the second thing is we talked a lot about this on the webcast last week, Ryan, about the idea of eventually there is either progression or regression to the mean,
Yeah.
right? And one of the guys I pointed out was that Aaron Judge probably wasn't going to hit 400, 390. Like I kept saying, what do you think the final number will be? 360, 350, 340? And if that's the case, there's a lot of like not as good hitting coming. And he certainly had a bad weekend. as far as hitting. He had one gigantic hit on Friday night. And besides that, there were a lot of strikeouts, a big double play in the game that he rolled into in the game yesterday. And is that also the case? Like with like Rodon, are we seeing I just to try to cliff note it, like last week I said one of the things you should probably always do is say what did I think the final numbers would be on March 27th when the season started, and even today, what do I think the final number will be on a guy? If I think the final number on Rodon's ERA will be like 3.6, well, then there's a lot of runs to come,
Right.
for him. I still think, Freed is under 2 with an ERA. Like, it's probably going to be in the high twos by the time it's done. So, Ben Rice was probably hitting way over his head, and now he's not. Remember all the angst? And I kept saying, wait, about like, where's Giancarlo Stanton going to play? I don't know, probably DH pretty regularly. By the time we get there because of either injury or performance. And I think we're there. I think the Yankees had a lot of guys playing at about 120% of capacity.
Playing above their heads.
Yep, for the first 2 months. And so now the question is, like, can Stanton come and help, when there is some struggle in the offense? It really, who knows what this means? DJ LeMay, it's interesting to me. DJ LeMayu and Jeff McNeil, who are very similar players to me, guys who we keep saying, I bet you the New York teams wish they hadn't signed those contracts. And they're both former batting champions. They obviously bat from different sides, but their strength is bat on ball stuff. They've been two of the best hitters in baseball in June. Like going around, like LeMahieu's been really good. McNeil's been really good. So I didn't see that coming. The answer is, Ryan, the base running plays by
Dominguez and Rice.
Rice. I know people are critical of the Volpe steal because there's no outs, but that's a bang bang play. You're trying to get that like runner to third with, to create a fly ball, scores it right away, and you kind of get a lead. The thing that is more disturbing about that, and I'm sorry I'm rambling here a little,
It's
Ryan,
okay.
is like Volpe went from a good base stealer to not a good base stealer.
Yeah.
Like it's not a factor anymore. Like we thought that was going to be a big part of his game, and his success rate is not that high anymore. That jump move thing is certainly been caught onto by the sport, and doesn't give him any real advantage. But it was the two base running plays, absent-minded plays by young players, Rice and Dominguez, that really, really stood out to me over the weekend. And I would want to see more because I do think technically the Yankees played well to this point of the season. But I'll say this is the Yankees were a much better technical team for the first 2 months of last year than they ended up being for the final part of the season. And is there something about the group that they kind of like don't have the mental durability to just keep doing it right for 162 games? So is my mental alert on now? My mental alert's on, but I think this group of players is a better group. I think like Bellinger and Goldschmidt are really just good baseball players.
Yes.
They like know how to do things well, and they've been added to the like. And I can't imagine like, well, now that it's June 1st, those guys are going to play like bad baseball players.
No, I agree, Joel, and that's where I think it's part of that June swoon mental marathon that they're trying to get through. But the Dominguez and Rice errors on the bases, it reminded me so much of the Gleyber Torres and the mental capacity of where are you in this moment in the game? Are you paying attention? Are you tuned in? Because I get it, Joel. We're fans. We overhype these moments because we're Yankees fans. We care about every single game. Every single game is like the World Series for us. But I get frustrated because you're trained professional athletes, and like you highlighted, the Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidts of the world. Those guys were brought in to hopefully, I would say, help these kids learn, and like, hey, lean on them. How are you going to be technically sound? How to be mentally prepared every single day? And it feels like that was a really bad moment for Jason Dominguez. Like, the kid is not lit it up by any terms. He's played average baseball, which is, I guess, good because, I'm not going to expect him to be the most hyped prospect ever. But in that moment where you're like, I thought he was already at 2 strikes, how do you not know the count? where are you in that moment? And then Ben Rice, why are you so far off base? I that's two moments right
I,
there that just were ugly, really ugly for the Yankee fans to watch.
yeah, the Dominguez thing is, I think guys who are subpar IQ baseball players generally don't get better. And I just wonder about him in general. Like, is he a skill set in search of knowing how to fully use it? Um, so uh, I do wonder about that because there's this ball of talent there. And I'm not exactly sure what that ball of talent is going to be. Uh, and I want to keep in mind there's not a ton of minor league games
No.
for him or major league games. The Ben Rice thing just feels like an airhead moment. Again, I need to see more because like I haven't seen it before. Like I've seen stuff with Dominguez. Like last year, you'd say like, oh, we had seen some Glaber stuff or some Alex Verdugo stuff, or like the guys who didn't play the game technically great, where you felt like seen it, feel it, whatever. I need to see some more. I I'm gonna chalk this up that this is a weird weekend in baseball, uh, but that the Yankees did some CPR on the Red Sox in general and made me and you potentially have some more interesting shows over the next few weeks. Um, because, but on the other hand, their schedule lightens now. Like, are they just about to get fat again against a couple of like subpar teams? And we'll be back to just wondering, hey, are there teams that have their number? The Dodgers, the Reds, like we'll wonder that. But
But so
well,
so
last year, I'm sorry, Ryan, I
it's
cut you
okay.
off there. Let me just finish this one thought is last year, pretty much for most of the season, I was preaching on this show. They played baseball poorly,
Right.
right? I would have to see a lot more to get back onto that pulpit.
Okay. That's
Like,
kind of where I wanted to pin you down there. Like what
yeah,
like
like I don't feel that
okay.
having watched the team to this point. Watching the team last year, I was like, they're winning, but they do not play baseball well. They're just Soto and Judge are just kicking the crap out of teams, and they're surviving because of those two guys.
Yeah.
This has not felt like that level of technical badness.
Okay.
So I'm not saying it's not coming, but last year by this time, I'm sure I was a freaking broken record about it. And so I've got to see more.
Yeah, well, the reason why I asked that, Joel, and to my retort here a little bit is there were a couple of moments over the weekend with Trevor Story hitting an RBI single, and he extends it to second base, right? Because Dominguez doesn't get the ball quickly enough. And then the same thing with I forgot the other player's name, but Volpe does not cut it off because he's caught sleeping at second base, and he stretches again another RBI single to second. And I just think, Joel, and this is where I'm turning this conversation a little bit. I wonder about Aaron Boone and his staff, about how hard they preach to these guys. Hey, you got to be the cutoff right position because you got to watch. The Red Sox are going to be aggressive because a guy like Alex Cora knows I can fundamentally test these outfielders' arms because they're not so well in tune, technically sound of, I need to get the ball in as quickly as possible to second base on this RBI single. I saw it happen multiple times again this weekend, and I just wonder if the Red Sox have that scouting report that the Dodgers exposed last year of these outfielders aren't great at getting the ball in if it's not Cody Bellinger. Like Trent Grisham, you know what I mean? Like I saw some of that this weekend again.
Well, Grisham was certainly a guy who was on our radar last year for some of this stuff, but I thought was playing just harder this year in general. There was that. Yeah, Dominguez is a question for me about what kind of technical player he's going to be, and this has been a theme of mine for a couple of years. You are what you emphasize. You are what you emphasize, and the Yankees claim they emphasize this, and if they do, then last year in particular, again, I want to give some leeway between last year and this year. Like the question was last year, could you tell Gleyber Torres over and over again, please do not side saddle the ball. Please do not side saddle the ball. And it'd be like, yes. And you could literally say it to him once an inning, and it wouldn't matter. Under pressure, he was going to side saddle the ball, like both on ground balls, on pegs into the infield, and ultimately in a World Series moment that maybe cost them a World Series. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know. So I'm always like, there's a difference between, like, I'm sure if we microscope it over 162 games, we'll watch Paul Goldschmidt do something airhead. Also, it just happens, but we know he's a smart player. I have to see a lot more to believe that Jason Dominguez could even be an average smart player because I haven't seen it. Like, I'm blown away by a lot of the defensive stuff in general with as good an athlete as him. So that stands out. But yeah, like Ryan, I'm not dismissing your fandom on this. I'm not. Like, there'll be certain times where I'm like, oh, but I'm not, because it was such an issue last year, and it crawled up again this weekend against a manager that knows how to get under their skin,
Mm-hmm.
and a team that can scout them and knows them well, and a team that bothers them, and a team that could have really delivered a strong knock. Can you imagine if they won two or three or swept this weekend and the Red Sox traded Devers? What that might have looked like for his kind of like, okay, kind of Boston is now playing for something else. Now Boston's in it to some degree. Again, we're going to see what this means post Devers. They're in, I mean, freak, like, consider us, you know what Boston radio and webcast
Oh
and
yeah.
podcast be like right now with them. But the Yankees opened something this weekend that they hadn't opened for the first 70-ish games of the season. And now you and I are going to watch and say, did they have a bad weekend, or did this is the same thing happening again, which is as the season goes along, it takes a mental strength to do the routine over and over and over again well. And is there something about this group of Yankees coaches, managers, players that is not able to have like the mental marathon durability to do the routine over and over again? It is, at least for me, hey, I'm going to bear down on it, but I think that they get a little bit of wiggle room because they've been good at it for
Yeah,
too
no,
much.
I hear you. I want to be careful here because I think, like you have pointed out before the year even started, with the additions of Goldschmidt and Bellinger, their defense should be vastly improved. Moving Judge over to right field,
And their
vastly
baseball
improved.
IQ should be vastly, because
Exactly.
both guys are good base
Right.
runners. They know how to play the game. Like that felt like a step up. By the way, again, I don't know if it will last, but LeMayu falls into that. Like,
Yes.
technically a good player, physically can't do as much anymore, but is technically a good player. Judge, I think, is a technically excellent player, besides maybe being the best player in the world. Like, throws to the right base, knows when to go first to third, could sneak steal a base, like he's good at it. So
But my focus now is shifted to the left side of the diamond again and the left side of the field, because now you've put
yeah,
Jazz Chisholm in third, a position he's doesn't look like he's very comfortable at, in my opinion. He's made a
yeah.
couple of really bad throws here over this past week, being at third base. And you have, like you said, Jason Dominguez in left field, where we're going to find out over the next couple of weeks, can he improve? Can he get better in the outfield? That's where I've raised my concern, and that's why it feels a little bit like last year of Verdugo and Jazz Chisholm at third and left, where you're like, Verdugo was a great, very, very good outfielder, but there was other parts of it. But it's just, I'm 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 definitely going to be paying attention to it over the next couple of weeks, what this Yankees team responds technically wise, because I think the Red Sox, like you said, just got under their skin, and I it raises my eyebrows about Aaron Boone, and like, how are you going to challenge these guys to get better? Like, and that was unacceptable over the weekend. I want to flip it to the offensive side of the ball, Joel. Obviously, Aaron Judge
Can I
was,
can I
yeah,
throw
yeah,
in one?
of course,
I also do think it's time. It's a moment, and I think he's a good captain. But that Judge, like, there's these meetings every day, and we don't get transcripts. We're not invited in. We don't get transcripts. So maybe they talk about this every day. But I think before the game today, when they have that hitters meeting, Judge should stand in the front of the room and say, because to me, Judge is not just a captain, but these are discussions that are we've had on this show and are had all the time, which is, where in Yankee history is Judge going to rank? And he can't, there's a ceiling he can't get to if he doesn't win championships. The Yankees are simply not like Ted Williams could be the greatest Red Sox without winning a championship. Carl Yastrzemski could be top five without winning a championship. They haven't won a lot of championships historically. The Yankees, because of the number of championships they have and the number of championships that Ruth has and Garrick has and Mantle has and DiMaggio has and Jeter has and Rivera has and there's going to be a ceiling that Judge can't get beyond, even if he keeps up a third MVP, a certain, you know, historic thing, because we'll be like, oh, well, yeah, probably he's a better player than Yogi Berra, but like Yogi Berra won 10,
Yeah.
and that's the Yankee thing. So I think that part of what Judge has to do is, as a guy who was part of and lived through the Yankees not winning a World Series in part because they technically collapsed. I do think, and he might be doing this. Again, he is not a talker about things he does, and these meetings are not meetings we're part of. So I don't want to say that Judge is falling short here. I'm just saying if he is not doing it, this feels like an interesting pit stop moment in their season where the captain of the team who is so well regarded, besides liked and admired and like wowed by his teammates, has to say this wasn't a very good weekend for us. This wasn't a very good weekend of us playing with our heads locked into the game. And the season is long and you could get tired. Guys, you can't get tired. Where there's maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 teams have a chance at a championship this year, and we're one of them. And we know, for anyone who's in this room, who was in this room last year, knows how falling asleep mentally can cost you a championship. And so I think it would be valuable if he is not doing it. And again, I want to be cautious. He might be doing it. That besides hearing it from Aaron Boone or Luis Rojas or Brad Osmus or whoever on the coaching staff, that the most important player in their room should stand up in that hitters meeting, which is just the 13, 14, 15 hitters, like I'm sure some of the IL guys are in there too. Hitting coaches, stuff like that are there, and say, guys, this was not a good weekend for us. And it wasn't just that we lost 3 games. It's how we lost 3 games and where our head was at and how much it reminded me of bad moments from last year that kept this finger here without a ring.
Mm-hmm.
And I am playing for only one reason now. I got to get some of this. And we can't get there playing like we played this weekend, not the losses, how we lost.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, like, he was a contributing factor for the first time this season. He had bad days, offensively days. Obviously, he's had a bad day or two, but we haven't seen the serial stuff this year. And he had 3 bad days, 1 great at bat and 3 bad days.
Yeah.
So,
and we thought all Friday night was going to be like something, the unlocking of, hey, maybe Aaron Judge is going to have a monster series again. That was the biggest moment Friday night, and it's unfortunate how that extra innings went for the Yanks, who again are not good in extra innings. I'm going to tell you that too. That's
especially on the road.
That's eye raising as well. The extra inning stuff. Luckily in the playoffs we don't have to worry about that. But anyway, Joel, I do want to switch, and that's a great. I think it's a good point you make about Aaron Judge, because this is the question I want to raise about the offensive side of the ball for the Yanks here. We've talked about how multiple and how different this offense can be, because there's guys that have special skills to get on base, make damage on the base paths. They have so much lefty power, and obviously they're left-handed strong lineup. They face one of the best lefties in baseball in Garrett Crochet Friday night. Doesn't go well. Hunter Dobbins, the guy that you have reported on a bunch over this past week, he owns you Saturday, and then they don't get anything out of Brian Bayo yesterday. Is this offense too lenient again on Aaron Judge? Because he'll get highlighted for, hey, you had this is your first rough series of the weekend. But the rest of the offense, I thought, where were you? I think Friday they had glimpses, Saturday they had glimpses, but they just couldn't punch through.
Yeah. I think that the offense is a top 5 offense.
Okay.
Led by the best hitter in the world. And that gap is always going to be large, even when they're going well, right? Like, even when they're going well, it's like Aaron Judge and everybody else. At some point, that's with them going well. I think there's a lot of good hitters in the lineup. The question is good or better than good. Like they haven't still fully been defined. The one guy I still believe is going to hit really well in the major leagues is Austin Wells. I do. One of the things that's not there right now is like on base stuff. I still think he knows how to drag an at bat deep. He's not walking really, but I think he will. I think there's real power in his bat. There'll always be questions because if you stand next to Austin Wells, you don't think catcher. He's not built that way. Like, what's the durability? Like not just staying off the IL. I mean, just physically to get to 162 games because he's be catching a lot. And it does stand out again. Again, JC Esquera is having a nice little rookie season, whatever. Carlos Narvaez is the other catcher for the Yankees and a right-hand hitter. You just see this weekend what a good all-around player he is
Mm-hmm.
for Boston. He would have really, and we'll see what this prospect, the Yankees, who's a couple of years away, still the pitching prospect who they think a lot of, and the industry thinks is a good prospect also. What he turns out to be. But Narvaez might be an all-star as a rookie. He's probably, if the season ended today, he'd finish second to Jacob Wilson for Rookie of the Year, probably in the American League. So that was a significant trade and somebody who would be helping them on both sides of the ball if he was still a Yankee now. So I just do think uh, I still think Wells is
He's starting to hit a little bit. I will
he's
say,
starting to
yeah,
hit, but I think that he's a good hitter.
yeah.
Has power. Like if I feel that there's a 250 to 260, 325 to 345 on base percentage guys, besides whatever lefty power he brings. And I think one of the more encouraging things you've seen over about the last 10 days, 2 weeks is his left on left work,
Mm-hmm.
which is always going to be important because the Yankees are going to have a crap load of lefties thrown at them between now and whenever the last game of their season is. If you got a lefty, he's going to pitch against these Yankees. It's why Stanton is so important now coming back. Does he give them some of that diversity there? I am curious what Stanton they get back over the course of, and how long he stays in the lineup. Uh, I
But
think the
if
Yankees
they
are a good
manage it
offensive
properly, right?
team. Yeah, I do think ultimately the answer to your question for me, Ryan, is I think the Yankees are a very good offensive team. Um, and the next step is Wells a high 700 OPS guy? Does Volpe stay in the high 700s as he is? Like, there's been a little more level. You know what's been interesting about Volpe is we've done a lot of shows over the last 2 years where we're like, it's the roller coaster. It's great and terrible. He is in his longest period to me of just pretty good. Like it's been pretty good for about a month, right? Like it's not been like, wow. And it's not been, oh my God. He's in one of those periods where he's going to go 2 for 40 with 20 strikeouts. He's been good and he's maintained a 700-ish OPS. I think he's used the whole field well. So, like, if he's in the high 700s, if Wells is in the high 700s, if Stanton comes back well, and I think all those things are feasible or better, I think that they'll have a good offense, you know, and that Jazz is a linchpin. Like, which Jazz Chisholm do they
I
get?
know.
You know, I, what's going to happen is Jazz is going to have games where he hits a homer or two and steals a base or two, and everyone's gonna go, like this is the thing. This is like the girl you break up with, and then 2 weeks later you're thinking, I really miss her, and then you forget all the things that happen. Like he does that. He has those games that make you go, but there's a lot of games where he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And it feels to me like he is talented enough to have impact on every game in some way. Defensively, offensively, on the bases, energy, stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe it's just he's a human highlight film and not a consistently top flight player. When he's so there's a little Volpe now. When he's good, he's great, and when he's bad, he's terrible.
Yeah.
And What the Yankees need him to be is more of this.
That,
Just really good every day. A threat on the bases. Like get the ball in play, man. Like
yes,
if you get the ball in play, stuff happens. Like
yes.
like you're so fast. And he's a linchpin for me, and I think he's a human highlight film. And I'd have to be convinced otherwise that he's more than that. And there's days, by the way, the human highlight film will win games for them.
Yeah, it's just I think it's an overarching theme. I think for this offense a little bit is I wish for a little more consistency. I guess in my opinion, I know there's so
But
much.
they've been pretty
They've been
consistent
pretty
until
consistent,
this
but they have.
until like this little period here. Like I thought they were much more up and down last year going to the World Series. So they're always tricky, right? Like they finished in the top two or three in runs per game last year. They're there. But I felt that there was a lot of, you could average 6 runs a game by scoring 6 and 6, or you can average it by scoring 10 and 2. And like if you score 10 and you score 2, you'll probably go 1 and 1. If you score 6 in both games, you'll probably go 2 and 0. Right. And I thought last year there was a lot of 2 days because like if Judge and Soto didn't do enough and or neutralize, there wasn't as many. I thought this year that there were a lot of innings that Judge didn't bat where I was like, wow, that was a great offensive inning by them. And they got a lot of guys on. They had some movement and athleticism on the bases. They had balls in play. They were creating some havoc. Uh, so I, Ryan, I do want to say it again. I am curious what the weekend means
Hmm.
because the offense obviously was zero this weekend. It Judge was bad and everybody went down the toilet with him, kind of. But I think it's been a pretty good offense this year. Top five offense in the sport in pretty much anything you would really care about. I still think that's who they're going to be. I think it could be even better if Stanton is good, and LeMahieu stays healthy. Those are big ifs because those guys just physically have broken down so much over the last few years. But I I will continue to believe that what between now and July 31st, the Yankee problems will that they'll address will have to be starting pitching and a reliever. And it won't be that they won't try to get somebody who might either take Dominguez off the field or bat right-handed for Dominguez, as part of a platoon with Dominguez. But
But go
with
figure,
that,
Dominguez had 3 hits against the lefty pitcher last week against the
yeah,
Royals.
yeah, I
Like
know.
he just has those type of days too. It's
Because he's not as talented as Jazz. I mean, Jazz is just like if a decathlon broke out, Jazz would win. The damn thing. He's so talented. Um, but
but I know
he's
what you're
super
saying.
talented.
The
Dominguez is super talented. What you want for certain players is consistency. Just like it's what I think Volpe's problem has been till about
Yeah.
the last 4 or 5 weeks. Like, if this is Volpe, this is a very good version of him because he's been good pretty much every day. Like, it's just like good. It might not be great, but a high 700 OPS for a guy who could field is pretty damn good at shortstop. And especially if that's just who he is. And it's not like to get to a 700 OPS, it's 500 and 900. It's this consistent thing. Is there that for Jazz and Dominguez? Like a more consistent thing? Jazz has played enough games where I have a suspicion this is who he is.
Hmm.
Dominguez hasn't played enough games for me to know exactly who he is.
Yeah. And for me, just to retort a little bit, Joel, about the Yankees' high offense, low offense days, they do. This is the first. They have 4-1-0 wins this year.
Yeah.
It's the most in their season since 1976. I mean, they do have the little bit of this element of we'll blow you up for 10 runs in an inning, but then we'll also have a days where we're going to go for 1 run today and nothing's really cooking. But I think a lot of this is
But,
because
but 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 Ryan, one of the things I would do is look like who are the teams who score two or runs or fewer more, or 3 runs or fewer more. Like every team is going to run into some pitching and bad offensive periods and do that. Like for example, last weekend the Rangers scored 16 runs, 2 runs, and 16 runs. Right? When they scored 2 runs, it was the 31st time this year they had scored two, one, or zero. 31, two or less. Only the Rockies had fewer than them. Like the Rangers had great pitching this year, surprisingly, and now they just lost Tyler Mahle. So what does that mean? And DeGrom's always a worry, but they hadn't seized on good pitching. Like the Yankees, like every team is going to have a percentage of games where they score two or fewer. The thing you're trying to do is stay out of the same sentence with the freaking Rockies.
Yeah.
And the Rangers were in that, and the Rangers have real like if you sat like I was talking to somebody who covers their team, a personnel guy who covers the Rangers for another team, and he said, "You know what's crazy about the Rangers is like they need to add a bat, but when you go around their field, you're like." I like that guy. I like that guy. I like that guy. I like that guy. I like that. At some point, you're like, we're gonna have to replace a guy who's struggling that I have historically liked but they're not performing.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to get off on that tangent.
It's okay.
I'm just saying that if you look at it from 10,000 feet, you'll find some Yankee pockets of winning 1-0, losing whatever. But in general, their offense has been very good comparatively to everyone else. But this was a bad weekend. I think there's going to be somebody said to me about Judge last week because I was going to write about Judge. I called up an executive from another team who I have a lot of respect for. And I said, "What do you think about Judge?" And he says, "He's the greatest hitter in the world." He said, "But he's got a 460 batting average with balls in play." He said, "He ain't going to finish with it. Like it's unsustainable. I don't care how hard he hits the ball." So his batting average is, he said his power will stay high. His RBI total, as long as other guys get on base, will stay high. He said his batting average is about to plummet significantly. And that was before the weekend. He said it's just unsustainable. Like we have certain measurements now to know what's sustainable and not. And the guy just said, "No way." He said he'll probably hit 340, 350. And by the way, if I had told you on March 1st, Judge is going to hit 350 this year, you'd go, "No way."
Yeah.
Like, I mean, come on, 350. I mean, maybe 310, 320, whatever. It would be a remarkable season. But because he's hovered at 390 to 400, now it feels like a come down. But I suspect it is going to come down.
Yeah, no, it feels like kind of what's happening to Ben Rice too, because he's in a lot of bad luck, I would say, recently. And for Ben Rice, you wonder like, can he continue to be consistent and hit the ball hard, and which he is, and then maybe he finds a little more luck. I will say, Joel, it's they're going to have a soft part of the schedule here this week with the Angels and the Orioles. Can they beat up on those teams and they play better baseball? We'll see how the offense responds.
Orioles have played better for about 3-4 weeks. And that's like another one. The Yankees, the Orioles are starting to like go look. Do you know the Red Sox are like the third wild card right now?
Yeah.
Right. So like it's not going to take much above 500 to convince yourself that you're in it. Maybe 500 on July 1st convinces you, maybe not buy, but let's not sell. And try to make the most out of the season. So the Yankees it's another weekend at home against a team that's teetering. I find the front end of the week, Mets Braves, fascinating do the Mets punch the Braves hard? Or do they let the Braves, who, by the way, again, like Baltimore, like Texas, has a lot of talent. Like when you watch the Braves, you're like, wow, they've got like 8, 9, 10 players. You go, wow, those are really good players. So if the Braves played 575 ball the rest of the year, and suddenly it's 2 weeks left in the season, and you go, if the Braves have a good 2 weeks, they're going to be the second or third wild card. Like at this time last year, trust me, we didn't think the Mets were going to be a wild card, and they were.
No, this is the time of year where, like you said, teams are going to try. Like if they can find themselves here, they'll go for it. But like you said, you could put your thought.
So I think the Mets with the Braves and the Yankees with the Orioles could do some punching this week to say, nah, not your year.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Joel. Let's finish up with Joel's notebook. The Rafael Devers trade it was like the Luka Doncic trade in terms of, holy crap, this just happened on June 15th. A major baseball star gets traded to the San Francisco Giants, and the Yankees fans, I think like myself, are like, yeah, that's awesome. Like, we don't have to deal with Devers anymore. I don't think anyone was happier besides Garrett Cole yesterday that the Devers news happened. So, Joel, I wanted to ask you for Joel's notebook, Have you ever seen a trade like this happen before this early with a major baseball star? I mean, you're talking about the guy who was second in RBIs in the AL is getting traded all the way across the country into the National League. So I just want to get your thoughts on that and what the hell happened yesterday.
Yeah, I'm sure that viewers of this, and I always am thankful for people who are watching it, will think of others. But I mean, like Luis Ariz was coming off of back-to-back batting titles and was traded in the first week of May last year. Uh, but the one historically with the Yankees that is kind of close to this date, and he wasn't having the year that Devers was having, but in like the fourth week of June of 2020, the Yankees got David Justice from Cleveland, and David Justice turned out to be a difference, literally hit the pennant-winning homer against my friend Michael Kay's great call to set up the Subway Series. Get your tokens, baby. When he hit the ball into the upper deck. So um, that was a late June trade. And I want to say Sabathia is true. I don't have the date in front of me. When
Oh,
Sabathia got traded from Cleveland to Milwaukee, I want to say it had moved to July, but it would be in the first few days of July, like the second, the third, the fourth.
July 7th, 2008.
Yeah, like it jumped the trade deadline, and it was like, wow. And I mean, you could argue at that point, Sabathia was a better player than Devers. He might have been the best pitcher in
He was
baseball,
the best
and
pitcher in
that's
baseball during the Brewers that run.
yeah, yeah. So like that happened. So like there are times where the market has jumped. I think the more interesting thing is the Red Sox doing this suggests that they felt they had an untenable situation. And if they felt they have had an untenable situation with this player, I still think they need to look in the mirror as an organization. I think Devers did not help things and was not mature during this. But they've had Devers since he's 16 and they know what his maturity level is. Uh, and that I think they handled this terribly at every step of the way. I think that they handled this terribly with this trade. We'll see historically where it is. I think any player could be traded, but I think Devers being traded this offseason after some team fails to get Kyle Tucker or Kyle Schwarber, and you're sitting there and saying, got this guy, he's half the price of Vlad Guerrero Jr. He's probably as good a hitter or almost as good a hitter as Vlad Guerrero for half the price. It's essentially free agency, and you've got to give me some compensation with some players. Could you have done better than Kyle Harrison and
Jordan Hicks.
Jordan Hicks? And like, look, we don't know the quality of the two prospects. Maybe one of them was a first round draft choice last year, so maybe it'll turn out to be something. But this feels underwhelming
Mm-hmm.
for and for this is a franchise now that has traded Mookie Betts, bad for them. Let Xander Bogaerts walk, which turned out to be really good for them because Bogaerts has turned into a bad player with the Padres, certainly a bad hitter. And now is letting Devers go at kind of like the top of his craft in his prime after committing to him not too long ago. This isn't the Kansas City Royals and Milwaukee Brewers. This is the Boston Red Sox. So I am curious, what are they going to do with the money? How good is Kyle Harrison and especially the prospect who they got, who was first round draft choice last year? But they were in a playoff spot. So do they have like a wheel around trade here where because it's like an interesting, like we're going for it. No, we're not. You trade for Garrett Crochet in the offseason. You're going for it. You just sweep the Yankees and trade Rafael Devers, who's by far your best hitter, the kind of guy who he ain't Judge, but he's Judge compared to everyone else in the lineup.
And he's Aaron Judge
Like,
to the
like,
Yankees, like when he
yeah,
faces the Yankees.
right. But I'm talking about like Devers gap. Like Devers is the best hitter on the team. Who's the second best hitter on the Red Sox? Like, what's that gap?
Uh, yeah, it's I would say it's pretty sizable.
I mean, when Bregman's playing, it's probably Bregman, but he
Yeah.
ain't going to be playing for. He hasn't played for a while. He's not going to play for a while, and He's going to opt out at the end of the season. So of the entrenched guys, I mean, maybe you believe that Roman Anthony will eventually be that, or Marcelo Meyer will be that, or whatever. But like right now, I would say the gap between Devers and their second best hitter is similar to Judge and whoever you consider the second. I think the Yankees have the same thing. Like, who's the second best hitter on the Yankees?
Paul Goldschmidt right now.
Yeah, but like that's a gap.
Yeah, no.
And that's like the Red Sox gap. I mean, obviously the Yankees are never trading Judge, but like the idea of you're in the race and you're trading your best hitter and your second best hitter is fill in the blank. Man,
And they're only six
that's
and a half
tough.
games out of the AL East too.
They're not far out of the AL East. And they've done a lot of kicking the can down the road the last few years. And at some point, you're a Boston Red Sox and you have to say, we're going for it, right? Like
They don't want to
that's
spend the money anymore, Joel. That's what it seems like.
yeah, it's been a strange thing. Like like you know what feels impossible? That the ownership group that ended the curse and won 4 championships, like it feels like that group would have statues built on every block in Boston, considering how long and how much heart and frustration the fan base, which is so unified behind the Red Sox up there, they are all red. There's no like split Mets, Yankees, Dodgers, Angel, anything like that. Everyone in Boston, New England, is a diehard Red Sox fan. And you would think that ownership group would have poems, songs, and statues built and written for them, and they are now on their way to being hated, which is stunning if you live through the any portion of the curse.
The moment you let Mookie Betts walk out the door, you traded him, and then now you did this with Devers. It just, I love it as a Yankees fan because like we have our own issues, but like that's bad. Like I would never live that down as a fan if my franchise traded away, like you said, like an Aaron Judge or someone like that twice, 2 times now in the last 10 years. It's crazy. It really is.
I mean, they got a group of young talent. If you believe that, Anthony and Meyer and you know,
Christian Campbell,
Christian Campbell and Narvaez. Like this is an interesting little group of positional talent.
Duran,
Duran
right?
has been a
Yeah.
good player, though the talk about Duran to San Diego has been real. I know it from talking to people that that's a real thing.
They would really
Uh,
trade him too.
yeah, I think
What the hell are they doing?
that there's a little bit of smartest boys in the room going on there where they're playing. I think they think they're playing chess and everyone else is playing checkers. We'll see. We'll see. But I mean,
How is Alex Cora okay with any of this?
well, we don't know if he's okay with it, but I will say like Alex Cora's strength is communication, and the fact he couldn't get through to Devers, that's another one I wonder about. Like, had their relationship fallen apart? It felt to me like when John Henry flies to Kansas City to meet face to face with Devers, and Devers' response isn't, "I'll grab a first base glove, let's try to win." It's he
I
still is.
play third base. That's what he
Or
said.
no, I'm the DH now. Like
Yes.
he flew to Kansas City like a month ago when this was at a high point again when kind of thing. And I, because like a lot of their issues would have been solved if Devers went to first base. It would have really helped them. And I don't see any reason why Devers wouldn't be as good a first baseman as Pete Alonso. I mean, he was playing third base. His problem was range and things like that. Like he could field the ball. I would think he could be a fine first baseman. It's a historic move. Tony Perez, third to first. Jim Thome, third to first. Harmon Killebrew, third to first. Jason Giambi, third to first. I mean, I could go on and on. That's a very familiar move by great sluggers who can't handle the position anymore because they get bulky, they get older. It's familiar. It's not an insult to say, hey, you've kind of played yourself off a third. You're now our first baseman. Here's 10 guys in the Hall of Fame who did it.
Does Devers go to first base for the Giants, or do you think he's playing
I,
third?
I, I, I would think he should go to first base for the Giants. I think so I always think when you don't lock the DH up, you're a better team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that Devers shouldn't do a lot of DHing, but when you don't have the ability to take another player off the field, like the Yankees are just about to hit this, right? Stanton's going to come in and lock the DH. So you're still thinking about preserving Judge best for the long thing. And I think Boone has had an eye on that. And he likes to give Judge a DH day about once every 7 to 10 days. If he does that, now he's got to take Stanton off the field. If he does that and Judge is the DH, we know it's a day Rice can't do it if you believe in Rice's bat and think he should keep hitting. So obviously the Yankees are happy to have Stanton back, but locking yourself in to one guy, especially a 28-year-old who can still be on the field in some form, is ridiculous. And the fact that there was not a leadership structure from the owner to the manager to other teammates to go, we are trying to win, man. Like, let's agree to agree. Ownership, management, the GM, everybody screwed up here. Let's start today and try to win. We need you to play first base. And the fact that that never happened, I think it says a lot about why Rafael Devers is today a Giant.
Crazy, crazy, Joel. That's a show. Appreciate you as always, man, for giving us all your insight. We're going to be paying attention closely to what the Yankees do technically, how they respond offensively this week. Like you said, they got soft opponents here against the Angels. Can they step on the throat of the Orioles and end their season here? We'll see. But as always, Joel, thank you for coming on and giving us all your insight, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Ryan. And I said it earlier, but I'm always remiss if I don't say, I know people are watching this, and I think our group is growing a little, and it's really appreciated that people are following our show.
Could not say it better myself, Joel. And we'll catch you next week, man.
All right, Ryan, all the best.